Well, up the Asia is shut, so we don't have anything to really look forward to when it comes to Asian markets. But back home, if I look at India, last week bulls were able to defend 70 to 50 at least on a closing basis. So there is some hope that maybe the recent low is slightly more durable in nature. Ravi, Uppal, Managing Director and Group CEO with JSPL, Jindal Steel and Power, joins us now. Ravi, good morning and thank you for joining us. Ravi, the news is out in the open. Every brokerage has done numbers on how steel companies would benefit and which steel company would benefit the most. What brokerages are not sure of is that how much steel companies can really pass on in terms of a price hike. What is your assessment of that?
Well, there will be some correction in prices, but it is not certain as to how fast this can be done. I think it's something which has to be done progressively. We just want to make sure that the price increase is enough to support the steel industries. That they have been going through a huge stress in the last 18 months, and I think we need to make sure that the Indian steel industry revives, because that's in the interest, long-term interest of the Indian economy.
Will it be 10%? Will it be 15%? Will it be minimum 20%? Because according to our numbers, the gap now could be as high as about $80 to $90 per ton.
Well, as I said, that it's very difficult to tell right now. I mean, there has to be a price correction. There are no two opinions about it, because the Indian industry was forced to sell their products at less than their cost. They were not even recovering their full variable costs. So I think there has to be correction in a realistic way. We also have to keep in mind the interest of our customers. So I think it's a balancing act. So it's very difficult for me to give a number right now. I think we have to come into the market and progressively make the necessary corrections.
You say, Mr. Uppal, this is definitely a step in the right direction and a much need of the hour move by the government?
Sorry, could you just repeat your question once again?
No, I was just saying that would you nonetheless say, I mean, numbers or not, that this is definitely a step in the right direction?
Absolutely. There are no two opinions. This step was long overdue. As I said, the prices have been falling for the last 18 months, starting from September 2014. And the prices came to a level that the industry was not able to sustain itself. And this was absolutely unrealistic. Some of the countries, including China, Korea, were simply dumping the material. China's, own demand has come down by 150 million tons in the last 18 months. And therefore, they were wanting to maintain the production levels. So what they did in the process, they started, dumping steel in all the markets wherever they could. And India was one such country which was a victim of it. That if you look at the imports from for India, they grew by more than 52% in the first 6 months. And if you annualize the rate that we have witnessed in the first 6 months, India would end up importing something like 15 million tons of steel, which is more than the production capacity any of the mega units we have in India. So therefore, it had a profound adverse impact on the Indian market. The Indian market is growing 4 to 5%, but any growth which was there, the benefit was not going to Indian manufacturers.
Of course.
It was all taken by imports.
Yeah.
So that is something which is not sustainable and not good for the country.
Of course. But Mr. Uppal, while you may hesitate to give me a number, let's assume you have some initial thoughts on what the quantum of hike could be. Would it be enough to offset the kind of EBITDA pressures that steel companies have shown in the last couple of quarters, at least this quarter, whatever numbers I've seen and from the smaller names, or the previous quarter, even the large names, there was certain pressure on the EBITDA front. Will it be offset because of this?
Let me put it like this, that the net sales realization in the last 18 months have fallen by nearly 40%. The cost has also come down, there's no doubt about that, but the drop in cost was nowhere in comparison to drop in the sales realization. So therefore, it is going to take steps, time to see how this price recovery can be done. So I think there will definitely be recovery. I think it is going to help the whole industry. And I also want to tell you one thing, that the Indian customer left to themselves, they like to buy in India. The reason being they can buy in small quantities, they don't have to have carrying costs, they don't have to take forex exposure. and they're more assured about the quality they get. So we're very certain that the Indian customers principally want to support the Indian made steel. And there will certainly be a recovery in price, but as I mentioned, that it has to be done in steps, progressively. We've got to make sure that there should be a price rise enough to make sure the Indian steel industry, their health is restored.
Right, Mr. Uppal, appreciate your time and thank you for joining us. We'll stay with that story and let's touch base now with Chintan Mehta, mining and metal analyst with Sunidhi Securities. Chintan, we've not got a number assessment from the JSPL management and on what could be the quantum of local steel hike. So given that steel companies are not ready to commit to a steel price hike, and steel stocks on Thursday and Friday in anticipation of the MIP news had already moved up, what could be the immediate upside today when markets will open and in the short term for steel stocks?
Okay. Good morning. See, your three questions to answer actually. I will take it line by line. First of all, see, there's an ambiguity still. We are awaiting a clarity on whether this MIP is inclusive of all the taxes or not. Because when we talk about the imported regime, how it is, there is a basic custom duty, there's a countervailing duty of 4.5%. So there are many taxes which is levied on the import. So if we talk about current prices of $270 to $290 for any steel, and vis-a-vis $450 what is imported. So when you're talking about the taxes stuff, the taxes itself could be somewhere in the range of 5,600 rupees, on current prices. And if I take out on the minimum import price, the taxes will be somewhere close around 8,000 rupees. So 3,400 is itself on the taxes regime. The difference becomes huge when we talk about taxes on that front. Nonetheless, what we're talking about, the numbers are big enough. Somewhere in the range of $60 to $80, what will be the ultimate benefit which can be poured into all the steel makers at this point of time. So we, players like JSW Steel or say the JSPL, which are domestically focused, there will be a more bargaining power than Tata Steel because they have a chorus to deal with, which is still a loss making.
Having said that, Chintan, if you were to talk to your client today who is asking for advice as to what should he do with the steel names, should he buy them, should he sell them, or should he hold them? What would your advice be and on what stocks?
Right, absolutely. See, from the last couple of weeks, we have been advocating our clients that we should reduce the short positions. We should close on the short position steel stocks firstly. That should be done first and foremost. And we advise them to go long on JSW Steel because nonetheless, even without MIP, JSW Steel was the one stock which will hold a better value over the period of time. And with this MIP, JSW Steel makes one of the best bet in all the steel sectors because they're coming up with new capacities. The delta is good in terms of EBITDA. So the JSW Steel is one of the best picks, and then we try to drill down to the smaller steel players who, say for example, Sarda Energy, we tend to get their least leverage, and this kind of numbers, flips their EBITDA by 30-40 odd %. So that's what we are trying to getting. So JSW Steel, followed by JSPL, and then in the smaller names, say Sarda.
Very quickly, what is your price target revision for JSW?
We are still holding, as I said, I'm awaiting my clarity on my the numbers of taxes. So we are just holding on that price. If it say inclusive of taxes, if we just say this number is inclusive of taxes, then we are flowing somewhere around 1,250, 1,300. And if it's exclusive of taxes, then the number is a big number because the delta is 15,000 tons, of vis-a-vis current. So we are holding on that at this point of time.
Then really appreciate your time and thank you for joining us. Lots of important numbers have come out over the weekend. And